Peace, love, and maple syrup, y'all. SuperFlex episode 1 coming at you. Kedz and Crew. How you guys doing out there? See my guy Plankster made an early little note in the chat. See my guy the Nodges out there. What it do, no maniacs? I got my guy, the King of Pop, aka Nomad, the King of Pop. And we've also got Country Santa, Mr. Brian up to the right. How's it going, fellas? Let me start with you, Mr. Santa. What are you saying, Brian?
Oh, fabulous day. The weather is nice. No aches and pains. I'm above ground, out of jail, not in the hospital. Life is grand.
Those are all good things, man. Oh, it's been corrected. The King of Pop is officially with us here. Pop.
Hey, what's going on, No Maniacs? As everybody starts trickling in, we only got a couple people in here. So let's kind of slow roll it a little bit, I guess. My first week, man, it was it's basically it was a test balloon for me, a trial balloon to see, what's what. I got a good chance to look at, some of the teams and how they're set up, what they're calling, and how much usage they're getting out of certain guys. And so to me, that's what week one is. You're just going out there on faith with what you know based on the last season, and you put those guys out there versus what you seeing, what kind of program they're running this year. And so I think I'm gonna tweak my lineup a little bit, but I got some I think I got some pretty good ideas and some information for anybody that wants to know, who and what to do moving forward, man. I got some pretty good names.
Oh, okay. Listen to the King of Pop. We got some sleeper action coming from the King of Pop. I'm gonna jump right in. I want to touch on what happened just a little bit by way of week one. We're just gonna go through scores, etc., and then we're gonna touch on some of the leaders, mainly in our league, but the leaders should be the same, clean across the NFL and clean across fantasy football. So starting things out on a Thursday, Baltimore versus KC in a high-flying match, 20-27. KC takes it away. Final over in Green Bay versus Philadelphia, which was played in Brazil. We're looking at 29 for Green Bay, 34 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly takes that contest. Next, we've got Pittsburgh Steelers 18 over the Atlanta Falcons, 10 points. Speaking of which, Justin Fields apparently made his debut as the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. So a little bit of additional fantasy value for you Justin Fields fans out there. Next up, we've got the Arizona Cardinals versus the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills take aim at 34 points to Arizona's 28. Buffalo leads in that particular contest. Pretty decent showing from Josh Allen. Pretty decent showing from that offense across the board. Next up, we've got Tennessee Titans versus my favorite team, your favorite team, the Chicago Bears. Tennessee rounds out at 17 points. Chicago Bears round out at 24 points. Chicago Bears wins the contest. Not the grandest offensive foray for the Chicago Bears. A lot of development to be done, not just with their quarterback, but with that offense as a whole. On top of all that, we've got a little bit of injury news there. Rome Odunze has hurt himself. I believe it's an MCL. They are going through an MRI. We'll find out a little bit more, but I don't expect him to be playing this coming week. Next up, we've got good old New England Patriots versus the Cincinnati Bengals. New England squeaks out a win here on the back of their bell cow, Ramondre Stevenson. For those of you who aren't on the Ramondre Stevenson bandwagon, you should probably jump on now. He's a real thing, and he'll continue to be a thing in New England because real talk ain't nothing going on. And I'll shake my head at myself for benching Jamar Chase in a situation where I probably would have won my week in my other league. That is the Bears Podcaster League with Aldo Gandia and Joey Mandel. I was up against Joey Mandel this week, and I lost because I benched Jamar Chase, thinking maybe Jamar doesn't play. Of course, Jamar played. I should have known Jamar was going to play. Anyways, I'll get you next week. Next up, we've got the Houston Texans, 29 points versus the Indianapolis Colts, looking at 27 points there. That offense and defense in Houston is pretty disgusting. Tank Dell had a decent day. Nico Collins had a fantastic day, and I think that's just going to continue on. And unfortunately, my Chicago Bears play them next week, but this week, week 2. But we'll get into that a little bit later on. Next up, we've got Jacksonville Jaguars, 17 points versus Miami Dolphins, 20 points. Man, your late round pick of Tua Tagovailoa worked out for you, didn't it, King of Pop?
Hey.
See? Pretty decent pickup, pretty decent quarterback. Long story short, I don't know what Andy Reid was thinking, but he might have got a good replacement in the end. Anyhow, Tyreek Hill's a monster is really what I'm trying to say. He's a monster. I've got Tyreek Hill at least one of my squads, and I'm very happy about that. Next up, we've got the Carolina Panthers, 10 points versus the New Orleans Saints, 47 points. I have no words for this. I don't. Is it that New Orleans is that good, or is it that Carolina is that bad?
Oh, it's easy. Carolina sucks.
Well, take it for what it's worth, because I don't really think a whole heck of a lot besides Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed is going on over there. Not to knock Alvin Kamara, but I don't know.
That era might be over with.
Yeah, I just don't trust what's going on in New Orleans across the board. That's just how I feel. But 47 points certainly says differently. Derek Carr's probably available in most leagues. If that's what it's going to look like for Derek Carr moving forward. I know he didn't have a fantastic week this week, but I rostered Caleb Williams and started him, so take that for what it's worth. Next we've got the Minnesota Vikings, 28 points over your New York Giants, 6 points. Flores' defense is pretty disgusting, isn't it? It's a really nice defense. Same token, that Daniel Jones experiment is a very interesting experiment. We'll see how well that moves forward. Again, Daniel Jones is available in many leagues, but there's a reason for that. I'll leave that there.
I wouldn't be honest with you. If I had a quarterback number 2 spot to fill, I wouldn't sleep on that guy, because he's gonna connect with Malik Neighbors at some point, and it's gonna be good.
Well, whether it's Neighbors or I believe Wan'Dale Robinson is the other one was over there, whether it's one or the other, that offense has to start to do something. And I have a strange feeling it's not necessarily going to happen on the ground at this point, especially minus a Saquon Barkley. There will always be focus on the run game, but the wide receiver room talent is there. So hopefully Daniel Jones can do a little bit of something this week moving forward. But, I'm glad he's on my waiver wire. I'll leave that there. Next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders, 10 points versus their rival, Los Angeles Chargers, 22 points. Harbaugh's back, yo. That's kind of the answer to that. Welcome back. And he made his impression felt. And unfortunately, there's a lot of questions over in Vegas. I think a lot of them have to do with Luke Getsy. Devontae Adams, though, showed out. Hopefully you can continue to take advantage of that throughout the season. But it's going to be tough sledding with that offense and Gardner Minshew, etc. He had a rough day as well there this weekend. On the other side, Chargers, all good things, guys. Justin looks good. Wide receiver core looks decent. Running backs even better. So keep your eyes peeled. So is that defense, actually. That defense kind of nasty still. Moving on, we've got the Denver Broncos, 20 points versus Seattle Seahawks, 26 points. Seattle, Geno Smith's a real thing, guys. So, if he is not rostered out there in some leagues, if he's not rostered, get yourself a little bit of Geno Smith, because I think that situation is just simply going to continue on for the rest, not only the rest of the season, but the rest of Geno's career. He's really stepped into his own, and a lot of that was attributed to Shane Waldron. And big questions were, would that continue on without Shane Waldron? Looks like it's continuing, guys. So by all means, keep your eyes peeled on a Geno Smith if he's floating around and available in your waiver wire, potentially as your QB2. Some people have him rostered as QB1, and I wouldn't blame him. Next up, Dallas Cowboys 33, Cleveland Browns 17. Yeah. So the Dallas Cowboys have an awesome team. They're definitely going to vie for contention this season once again, without question. That defense is disgusting. They did some really monstrous things to this Cleveland team that just kind of came out flat and not with it. And Cleveland allowed Joe Flacco to walk. Hopefully the other guys behind Deshaun Watson are really ready, willing, and able. I think they've got who do you know who's behind Deshaun Watson?
Ooh.
Either one of you guys?
Quarterback from UCLA, the 3-name guy.
Yeah.
Talking about Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
So there's Dorian Thompson-Robinson. There's also, is it PJ? It's not PJ Walker. Guy from the Bills, man. He played
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. It's not from the Bills, but yes, you're right. It is Jameis Winston. Okay, cool. So there's a couple of guys back there that you can sort of look at. I don't trust the Deshaun thing. I don't think Cleveland trusts the Deshaun thing. And if you guys are paying attention to the, as Mr. Leahy would call them, shit wins, and I'll just leave it there. There's something going on out there, and the shit winds are blowing by way of Deshaun Watson once again. So,
and by the way, Dorian Thompson-Robinson looked better than all of them in the preseason. He looked better than every last one of them. And so I you know what, I with that kind of contract that Deshaun Watson has, he's gonna have to crack down his leg completely before they take him out. So I'm just saying, if I had a roster spot with somebody that's on my team that I can live without, I wouldn't mind stashing it.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far, but definitely if you need a starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson may get bumped out. You might be looking for somebody, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson is not the craziest look, but yeah. Moving on. Next up, we've got Washington Commanders, 20 points versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 37 points. Something to be said, like, man, this all goes – I got to go back to Cleveland. I think I'm going to have – you guys
got
mind?
a question right quick from James Hunter, one of our members. I don't know if you saw this.
No, I didn't pick up McMillan, sir. I didn't pick him up. I'm okay, although I'm thinking about it. I don't trust DeAndre Hopkins, but I didn't want to get zeroed in on my team. Sorry, James. I didn't want to get too zeroed in. Yeah, man. Oh, see, the Nodge grabbed Jalen McMillan. See, look at that. Nodge got him.
Oh.
Nodge got him. I didn't want to do that. So here's what I do want to do. I want to take a look at the at the Cleveland Browns again. So the Cleveland Browns let go of their top 10, more likely number 1 quarterback pick in Baker Mayfield. They let him go after a couple of years of shaky management, if you will. And I'm going to say it now. Baker Mayfield, there ain't nothing wrong with no Baker Mayfield, y'all. Baker Mayfield's a really good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's a great leader, too. He just needed the right.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? He just needed to be with the right organization, and that organization is not the Cleveland Browns. It's unfortunate.
He's won a playoff game on 2 different teams. He's not bad. And he's never the problem in Cleveland. Never.
No. Not, and I'm so with you there, dude. I have to I'm giving big ups to Baker Mayfield, not just today, but for time. I thought you were the moxie that they needed on that team. And unfortunately, what did they go and do? They did the most Cleveland thing in the world, and they traded you away and went and spent $200+ million on Deshaun Watson, and unfortunately, Deshaun has not proven worthy of a very small fraction of that money. I'm being the nicest way.
Can I add some context to that, man? Because I do think styles make kind of fights. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, Deshaun, what they want to do is Kevin Stefanski is a San Francisco West Coast offense guy. He wants to run the ball 60% of the time from under center, get the boot action going. And that's not who Deshaun Watson is. Deshaun Watson, at his best, is in a mesh concept, shotgun formation, offset back, and that's how he operates. That's where you get the best Deshaun Watson. And to me, if they don't hurry up and figure out that that's where he's at home at, the whole damn regime is going to get fired.
Well, that's a very important observation, and that leads you back to so then why spend $200 million on a guy that doesn't necessarily fit what it is you're trying to do? That's a screaming indictment. But we'll leave we'll leave that there, and we'll move on to the ramifications of that maneuver. The ramifications of that maneuver turn into CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans turning into a playoff team the following year. That's really what wound up happening, which also turns into Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears situation that they're in right now. And it's kind of awesome to sort of go back and look at where this all came from, and it truly all just came from a massive mistake in Cleveland.
Can I be a shit starter right quick?
Okay.
And I want to ask both of you guys and everybody in the chat, is there any chance would you put Deshaun Watson on your roster?
So I unfortunately have him as a backup, and I regret it.
Okay. Well, don't just hold on that, man. Just Deshaun Watson is gonna show up sooner or later. He's gonna be like, hold my beer.
He can't operate in a normal offense. He made his money running around being an improviser. When it comes to 1, 2, 3 reads, he shits his pants.
When it comes down to it, they're either gonna figure out what works for him, or the whole regime is gonna go, and at some point it's gonna be somebody that comes in that fits what he wants to do, and then that dude's gonna unlock it here in Cleveland. I mean, Deshaun Watson didn't forget how to play football. Just know that. There's just what he's doing is apples and oranges, compared to what he's capable of.
So remember what I said about
massage to loosen up,
Easy, dude. Easy. Remember what I said about the shit wins?
Not my back.
Remember what I said about the shit wins, right? So that's what the dude's talking about. I can't, as much as the King of Pop here wants to be player, pro player and pro Deshaun Watson. Right now, the shit wins is blowing, and I think they're blowing in a manner that doesn't favor Deshaun. So I can't suggest anybody roster him. Now, same token, I actually did last year. So I rostered Deshaun Watson last year in a very volatile situation where I also rostered Justin Fields. All right, so Justin Fields was my starting QB. Deshaun was supposed to be my backup. By week 2, I bailed on Deshaun Watson and picked up CJ Stroud. And it was the best move I could have possibly made. Started CJ for the rest of the season. CJ put up fantastic numbers for me. And the 1 week where CJ, was on bye week, Justin Fields turned up. So I got no complaints. But, that being said, I don't know. It's just interesting to sort of go back and look at Cleveland. But let's finish off the rest of the week here. Last couple of games, we've got the LA Rams 20 points versus the Detroit Lions 26 points. Matthew Stafford versus his old team. Stafford revenge game didn't turn out the way that one might think. Same token, it is also the Jared Goff revenge game, right? If you look at it the flip side, and I think it turned out very well for Jared Goff. To be honest with you, I think it turned out the best for Jameson Williams. That's really who I think it turned out the best for, and that's somewhat eye-opening for Bears fans. So I just want to put that out there. So if for some wacky reason Jameson Williams is out there on your waiver wire available, go snag him now. Get him.
Breaking news.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Jameson Williams is available. No goddamn where.
No, he's not. He's very doubtful. He's available. Same token, he's playing like we thought he might eventually play, Bears fans. So we I would say I'm a little bit worried, except that Bears secondary is ridiculous. Anyways, on to the final game of the week. We've got the New York Jets, 19 points versus the San Francisco 49ers, NFC champs, 32 points. San Francisco takes the contest. Aaron Rodgers has a down day, down afternoon, 10 fantasy points, 10 and change for Aaron Rodgers. And yeah. So like, just to note, in one of my fantasy teams, I've got Caleb Williams starting and Aaron Rodgers as the backup. And I thought that was brilliant. And they combined for a total of 18 points, 18 fantasy points this past week. So I'm not quite sure what to do this following week. But hey, it is what it is. Things to note about that game, though, their defense is still stout. They were just up against, they were just outclassed. Alan Lazard. The connection between Aaron Rodgers and Alan Lazard is actually still there. And there's a guy who might not be rostered in many leagues. So by all means, keep your eyes peeled for Alan Lazard out there. Sorry, Scottish Bears. The one little cheesehead-ish thing that I'll tout today. Notice how I completely skipped over the Green Bay game super early and gave little to no love to it. But I actually, speaking of love, I'll come back to it after I touch on San Francisco. So San Francisco, again, kind of glad I've skipped out on Christian McCaffrey in two separate drafts. That's perfect. Unfortunately, Mr. McCaffrey's somewhat injured right now. Hard to say whether he's going to be playing next week. His backup will be playing, and I believe his name is Mason. I'm blanking out on the first name right now. Jordan Mason. So keep your eyes peeled for Jordan Mason out there in the waiver wire, folks. Decent running back, and he had a decent game there too. So again, with that offensive line, it could be anybody running there, and they basically do the darn thing, right? So is what it is. So back to Green Bay. And speaking of how I gave them no love, no love this week. May not be any love for a little while, for a couple of weeks. Jordan Love also has an injury. We'll see what kind of time out he will be looking at. I believe behind Jordan Love, you're looking at Malik. What's the last name? Malik Willis. Malik Willis is the backup quarterback over there. They literally just brought him in. I'm not really sure what you can really expect from Malik Willis, given the short tenure with the team and the fact that he's only on his second year of football, I believe, if not third. It should be really interesting to see what happens in Green Bay moving forward for the next couple of weeks until Jordan Love returns. With that being said, FGB. I'm sorry. Reality is I'm a Bears fan through, so you're gonna get a little bit of it. Right? You got to accept a little bit of it. But hey, those Jordan Reed had a week, as you guys can actually see right there. Jordan Reed put up 43 points. So if he can figure out a way to continue to move and play in that capacity with or without Jordan Love, hey man, something to be looked at, something to pay attention to. We'll look at some of the leaders this week. Anthony Richardson, fantastic week for the second year QB. 47 fantasy points on the week, a couple of tutties, bunch of completions, one interception. It was a decent week out there for Anthony Richardson. A couple other folks to talk about. Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp played well. And again, without Puka Nacua, who was also injured, another injury to sort of talk about here today. Without Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp's going to get those targets. I think he was upwards of 30 targets in the game. And that sounds about right, man. That sounds about right. I would target the heck out of him. What it do, Bishop? Thanks for coming through, my doc. But yeah, I would target the heck out of Cooper Kupp too if Puka was down. But at the same time, somebody's likely to step up into WR2 realm for the Rams. So keep your eyes peeled. I'm not exactly sure who it might be, but maybe is it Demarcus Robinson? I know one of the Robinsons is over there. It's either Demarcus or Wanda. I think it's Demarcus. Anyways, keep your eyes peeled. Next up, Saquon Barkley running things like crazy in Philadelphia, like a man possessed. I'm just like, even though the Philly won the game and they had a decent offensive showing, things are a little bit shaky in Philly. The defense is not playing like a Vic Fangio defense. I have to put that out there. It didn't play much like one last year either. And Kevin Byard kind of got a lot of flack, but we can sort of see that that's continuing on there now. And same token, Kevin Byard's playing lights out football over in Chicago right now. So shout outs to Kevin Byard. But Saquon Barkley, again, banner day, 40 fantasy points, 24 carries, 109 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Ain't nothing to complain about here. Next up, we'll go with Lamar Jackson. 37 points for Lamar. Decent night, 273 yards, 1 touchdown. I think he's got 1 rushing as well. Decent night for Lamar Jackson. Again, Lamar's a regular fantasy football league leader, so not to question whether he's might be on a waiver wire somewhere. There's no chance of that. But the guy he completed a couple passes to just might be, and that's Isaiah Likely. So Isaiah's definitely one of my waiver wire guys for the for week 2. Keep your eyes peeled. I've definitely put my ins for Isaiah Likely out there in the leagues that I'm in. So by all means, keep your eyes peeled. Next up, we got Tyreek Hill, like voted number 1 in the league for a reason by the players. In fantasy football, it's very hard to think of a guy who puts up more numbers season on season than Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is just a cheat code. That being said, again, 36 points for Tyreek Hill, 7 receptions on 12 targets, 130 yards, a touchdown, and one of the touches, I think that touchdown was something like a 78-yard touchdown. Just crazy stuff from Tyreek Hill as per normal. Yeah, man. Any thoughts, guys? I want to keep things a little bit more interactive with my guys here, man. What about you, Country Santa? Any thoughts on week 1?
No, I'm just happy that the Bears won.
Me too, brother. What about you, King of Pop?
Well, I just, like I said at the beginning, man, it's really a trial balloon for me the first week. And you're going to get some stuff that emerges that you didn't expect to see happen. Like I picked up Isaiah Likely in our sleeper league because, number one, he began to get targeted late in that season, and he really started to open some eyes. And I know that what's his name, number 89, Mark Andrews, had been going through some injury stuff, and he's been on the comeback trail. And I did not start him in week 1. Why? Because you don't want to try to recreate the wheel. You just expect if Mark Andrews is healthy after a full off season, he's going to get some run. And I would gather to say that I think Isaiah Likely is probably his second favorite target outside of Zay Flowers. I'm talking about Isaiah Likely. Yeah. I mean, Lamar Jackson, it seemed like 50% of his passes in the last couple of years probably went to Mark Andrews. And so most people in their right minds would have started Mark Andrews if they had him. Isaiah Likely, no. But nobody's seen Isaiah Likely busting out with all those points in fantasy. But I do think it's going to be an ongoing thing. I do think that's a situation that I would want my hands on if I didn't already have my hands on him. And so definitely that would be probably the number one guy I would hunt in waiver pickups if I can get my hands on him.
Can't argue with that for a second. The only my other guy would be Tyler Algier. I've rostered him in a couple of leagues in the past, and he's surprisingly good. The reality is just, he's got Bijan Robinson in front of him. If you have the luxury of having Bijan Robinson and can somehow do the Algier handcuff, it's worth its weight in gold. The run game over there is going to be crazy moving forward because they kind of have to find excuses to get Algier on the field because he's that good. He's actually really good. Not to take anything away from Bijan Robinson, he's very good too. But somehow, the more touches they can get to both of these backs, the more powerful, more dangerous that run game is going to be. It's just going to continue to be, and given the semi-powerful wide receiving core and new quarterback over there, they can be a really balanced offense. I'll put that out there if they can figure a way again to get both of these backs on the field, and they were able to do it this week. So
also,
I see it.
Another way to look at it is when you get down in the red zone area, are they going to really be trying to hand the ball to Bijan Robinson, or is they going to put the big guy in there and let him score the touchdowns? And, you have to think fantasy in those terms. Who's going to get those goal line carries when it's 3rd and 2 and you're on the goal? 3rd and goal, it's just normal stuff that people need to pay attention to. I think Tyler Algier is a great pickup if you can get your hands on. I also think are we talking about sleeper pickups right now?
Sure, yeah.
Let's go. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
By all means.
All right, here's another good pickup if you can get your hands on him. He's out there in a lot of leagues. And just history tells me that this is a good pickup. Saquon Barkley is great. But I don't remember a season since he's been in the league where he didn't miss 3 or 4 games. I just don't remember one. And with the way that offensive line blocks, I'm not saying that second back, Kenneth Gainwell, can do Saquon Barkley numbers, but he can put up some pretty decent ones. Kenneth Gainwell is a pretty damn good back. And that, if I were you guys, and if I was looking for a back, a number 2 back, or just somebody I can sit or flex one week, eventually he's gonna have to carry the load because Saquon will go down with something.
Bingo. I definitely second that. I wouldn't necessarily go, well, depends what you're really trying to do. If you're running back short, if you're short running backs, by all means, stash him. At some point this season, he's going to come in handy to have on your roster. That's for sure. No questions. Gainwell is a great idea to have sitting on that bench.
And I'm going to give this sleeper league about 60 seconds to go and try to get, I think his name, what's the back's name that ran all over the Jets last night? Jordan something.
Jordan Mason. Yeah.
Jordan Mason. I'm giving you about 60 seconds. If you don't have him, I will pick him up on the waiver wire. Why would I pick him up knowing that Christian McCaffrey is going to come back and he's going to get the bulk of the carries? I think they're strategizing. I think they know that I would say Christian McCaffrey's career has probably hit a crescendo and they know where to go but downhill from here. And they know that they can't give him those bulk of those carries early in the season if they expect him to be available in the postseason. So I do think there's absolutely nothing wrong with him right now. And I think they have a plan to play these other backs and get wins with them. And then later on in the season, start working McCaffrey in so that he's healthy for the postseason. So if that makes any kind of sense, if you have the depth, you have the offensive line, you have the defense to kind of carry the team, you can do things like that and kind of save a guy like McCaffrey if you're a head coach, and just give these other guys the bulk of the carries and let them carry the team until, all right, let's start phasing McCaffrey in. And so I think that's a great pickup if you can get your hands on Jordan Mason.
Holy smokes, Fly Nelly Fly. Welcome to the show, dog. That's pretty crazy. That's super crazy. So Fly Nelly Fly just jumped in from Twitch, represented. Man, just traded Jaleel McLaughlin for Justin Herbert. Okay. I don't know who your QB was before, but that's definitely an upside trade, man. Wonder who he had. Javonte Williams. Oh no. I expected big things from Javonte Williams. I also want to say this. Audric Estime has something. All right. Put that out there now. I think the Audric Estime thing is for real over in Denver. I need another couple weeks to really get a look at it. Keep my eyes on it. But I think he may have the ability to, I don't think he's going to take over the first running back position, but I think he's going to vulture a bunch of touchdowns over there if they're able to actually get into the end to the red zone. I know things are tough over in Denver by way of offense, but I think he's just a north-south back that has some special sauce, y'all. Again, couple of weeks, ask me again about Audric Estime.
So here's another way to look at fantasy football. It's different than anything else you'll be doing. It's not like you're just being a fan of the game and watching the game. You have to be able to predict some things. And so one of the things I learned over the years when I play fantasy on a regular basis is what team out there, you're talking about sleeper picks, right, kids? Mm-hmm. What team out there do you expect to be playing to be dealing with an uphill battle pretty much for the entirety of the season? Which of these teams are going to constantly have to keep themselves in shootouts and throw the ball all over the yard, to try to stay in games, because teams will stomp mud holes in them and they'll have no choice but to throw the ball. First, you better start looking at the Carolina Panthers. Better start looking at whoever those receivers are, because they're going to put up some decent numbers. Teams like that, teams like You're
not wrong, bro, because I actually have Xavier Legette rostered on one of my leagues for that exact reason. I think it's going to take him a couple of weeks to get acclimated to the NFL. Be completely honest, he's a rookie, etc. The rest of the guys over there ain't that bad. Adam Thielen, like quiet as kept, had a pretty decent fantasy season last year. Just put it out there. Again, he might be floating around on waiver wire. Adam Thielen's pretty decent still. He is.
That was the reason why I drafted him, because I think
there goes Santa again. well picked, Brian. Right? Like, I think he I'm not sure if it was 1,000-yard season for Adam Thielen last year, but it was definitely really close to.
Yeah,
I do think Minnesota will be climbing uphill most of the year. They'll have to throw the ball to try to get back in games a lot. King is saying Jacksonville. I don't know, man. I wouldn't say that. That's another sleeper quarterback that if I could and had the space for, I probably stash Trevor Lawrence.
What about the Raiders?
Brother, Trevor Lawrence is gone. Ain't no stashing no Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is gone. I'm not saying he had a fantastic week this week. What I am saying for this season across the board is, man, his wide receiver room looked real good. Like it does. It's a pretty disgusting wide receiver room across the board. Christian Kirk had a great week this week. He put up really solid numbers. Who else is out there? Calvin Ridley. Is that right? No. Calvin Ridley's in Tennessee. Who's the other? Brian Thomas Jr. There's another guy on the other side of Christian Kirk.
It's Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk, and then I know who you're talking about. I just can't think of who it is.
It's a solid wide receiver, brother.
Yeah, I just can't think of it. Who?
Gabe
Davis.
Gabe Davis. They got him in a trade.
Gabe Davis. Yeah, they've got a decent wide receiver core. The quarterback ain't terrible. Hopefully, he's so far he's proven to be the best of that particular quarterback class. I continue that to continue on as well. So, we'll see. But if I will definitely scour my leagues to see if there's Trevor Lawrence floating around because he might come in handy down the road.
Yeah. What about defenses, man? What did you guys think about the defenses this week?
They were as advertised. Chicago Bears defense is crazy. For those of you who don't know, it's going to continue. Minnesota's Vikings defense is crazy too. For those who don't know,
wait a minute. That Minnesota love, they did play the Giants.
That is fair. That is a fair comment. But at the same time, Brian Flores and that blitz, I don't expect that to change anytime soon, right? So we'll see how that works. I have much more worries about Minnesota's offense than I do their actual defense. That's where I'm sitting. I think that defense is pretty stout.
Can I offer another nugget to all the No Maniacs and anybody else that's watching or listening? It's sucker season out there. Game 1, people panic. You just might, if you can come up with a tasty enough package, you might be able to snooker somebody out of Malik Neighbors because everybody's so down on Daniel Jones. They don't think it's going to ever happen. You might be able to get Malik Neighbors. If you let's just say you season up a decent trade. You don't have to overdo it, but I think you have to give something. But it might take 2 players, but I think you can get Malik Neighbors in some of these leagues out here because they don't think it's going to happen down there in New York.
Well, I don't think it's happening in this league. I think I'm the guy who's got Malik Neighbors, if I'm correct. So we'll see. Holla at me. Let me know. make
offers for you.
You got offers.
Would you give them to me for Tua straight up?
You trade me your quarterback?
I got CJ Stroud too, man.
Oh, well, no, I can't. Give me a second. Let me look at this. No.
See you there.
I really did not expect there to be
I told y'all people it's sucking season.
Full on trade action in the middle of the show, but here we go.
No, yeah. I'm not trading you, goddamn Tua. You crazy enough?
Well, I got Joe Burrow, man. I don't want no Tua exactly over. Even though Joe Burrow put up 8 points too, right. I'm having quarterback. Listen, y'all, I'm having quarterback troubles out there. 8 points for Joe Burrow. Bryce Young is my backup on this team. 11 points. 11 points. I just finished telling you guys I got Caleb Williams and Aaron Rodgers who combined for 18 points. So in 2 separate leagues, for two separate leagues, my quarterback's grand total is under 50 points, which is crazy. That is just abysmal. So needless to say, week 1 is in the books. Wasn't all that great for anybody. Cheers to you if you won your week 1. And week 2 should be some interesting stuff because, we got a couple injuries to worry about.
I think you're getting a little note in here. In the grass wanted to get in the league. I don't know what happened. And James Hunter is giving you a tip saying, why don't you put him in the dead league and let him manage that team?
In the grass, look, okay, you know what? I love that this happened. That is fantastic in the grass. So look, we've got there's 2 auto-drafted teams that are available. So we can give you one of the two teams. One of the other teams is going to go to the Bishop Keith Harris to manage. All right. So it's really a question of which. Let me in, he says. I love it in the grass. That's awesome. So, if that's the case, we'll figure out here between now and Thursday, all right, which one you're going to get and which one goes to Keith. I will set up a poll for the SuperFlexers. We'll vote on who gets what, and both you and Keith will be in the league starting next week.
Well, you got to tell him how to get to you in case he doesn't know.
Say what?
You got to tell him how to get to you in case he doesn't know.
Word up, yeah. So by all means, in the grass, hit me up at Kedz the Canuck on Twitter. You can also hit me up at kedsthecanuck@gmail.com. Send me an email if you want. we'll get you straightened up and get you involved there. That's awesome. Keith, you already know how to reach me. No issues there. We've discussed this between the two of you guys and the rest of the super flexers in the world. Those two teams are super stacked. Like I wish I was lying. Auto pick kind of crushed both of those teams, being straight up with you guys. And I was trying to dump both of those rosters into the league so we could actually maybe get some decent waiver wire talent. So much for that idea. It's now a dead idea. End of the day, you guys have some pretty decent options on both of those teams. So we'll figure out which one goes to what.
I got another little fantasy, little cocktail secret that I use. I'm always looking at the amount of carries. Like when you're looking for guys to stash, I'm always looking at the amount of carries on average a running back will get on the team. So is there a mixture? Is it a guy that's really kind of carrying the load, kind of per se, your Christian McCaffrey? At some point, attrition kicks in, right? Attrition kicks in, and you stash guys accordingly. You know what I mean? Like we were just talking about Barkley and McCaffrey. At some point, they'll I don't think McCaffrey's going to play early in the season, but Barkley, I'll say you give him 2, 3, 4 weeks, and next thing you know, that game will be taken over for a little bit. And so I think that's one way to strategize how to stash and who to stash.
That is a very important detail that is somewhat semi-overlooked. So PPR, which is what we're playing, PPR stands for points per reception. So you kind of want guys who touch the ball more frequently than not. It's actually a part of what you're doing, and that's very key analysis there, Nomad, or King of Pop, if you will. Key analysis, paying attention to how many touches these guys get, how many targets a wide receiver gets is key. If you're a running back, like this is why a guy like Christian McCaffrey is the number one selection in fantasy year on year, because he's a running back who also gets targeted multiple times in the passing game in one way, shape, or form. That guy always kills it in fantasy. Saquon Barkley has the ability to do both of those things. Same reasons. That's why he's at the top two.
Real quick, In the Grass wants you to throw your email in the chat.
I did.
Okay. And Nick Cliff Victoria wants to know. He said he stashed Nick Chubb in his IR spot. Was it a good move? I think it will prove to be, depending on his rehab status. He just went down last year.
Like, it's always good to have a dude like that stashed in an IR. Like, just facts. Always, I could never suggest against it. Always good to have a guy like that, sneaky. I held on to a couple of guys like that last season, and to be quite frank, it really didn't work out for me. It didn't make much positive headway for me last season. But the season before, COVID season, holy smokes, was it key and influential. I was really able to back in and out of a bunch of free agents that really helped my squad 2 years ago. So by all means, hang on to Chubb. It's going to be a couple of weeks before we even know whether he's going to be informed to come back or not. But if he does come back, he's the lead back.
Conventional wisdom says, those dudes need a full year to rehab an injury like that. That's conventional wisdom. I've seen guys like Adrian Peterson, of course, he's an alien, come all the way back in less than a year. I've seen stuff, you know what I mean? I would just say that. I don't know what kind of what Nick Chubb is. He carries the ball a lot, man. So, I mean, it's just not a bad idea, man. It's just not a bad idea. It's some nice insurance.
So, Naj, you're the worst, Naj. I purposely put negative points for fumbles on the SuperFlex league, so I'm going to stay away from the guy you're suggesting. I'm totally teasing. To be honest with you, he'd actually be a pretty decent scoop up this week, or Tyler Scott. I'm not exactly sure who. I think the better way to sort of look at that situation is, I think one of the two of them will will speak at the press conference this week, whether it's Velus Jones or Tyler Scott. I have a feeling it's going to be Tyler Scott, and if it is, you might want to scoop him up because they may just slide him into that Roma Dunze role in the meantime. All right, so that's my thoughts there. I know he's teasing me with the Velus Jones situation, but hey, it is what it is. I think he's going to get some run this week. Again, with Rome gone, I think both those guys are going to get some run. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep my mouth closed on that.
There's a first. Oh, jeez. All right, man. Like, I think we've gone through the better part of fantasy football this particular week. Any questions out there from you guys who are watching the show? By all means, throw them in the chat. I'll try to adjust them before we shut things down here. Defensive matchups for week 2. I want to sort of highlight a couple of them. One being the Baltimore Ravens versus the Las Vegas Raiders. If you have Ravens defense, you're probably up for some very decent points. I don't see this being a good showing for the Las Vegas Raiders against a hungry Ravens defense. And I just wanted to highlight that one. Were you going to say something there, King of Pop?
Yeah. I wanted to throw another. This is me just trying to help the fantasy people out. Something I've also used since, and it works well. Always look at the coaches and the coordinators. Where are they from? Does this coordinator that just came over on this team know this other team? Because like this week with Chicago and Houston, they're very almost identical on both sides of the ball. Number one, is Caleb Williams is going to play. It's going to be like he's playing against his own guys in practice because they do the exact same defense. Pretty much no difference in what they do versus what the Bears do. Same kind of stuff. Same thing for CJ Stroud. It's going to be like looking at his own team in practice. So I'd expect both of those guys to put up some fairly decent numbers this week, just because of that. And just let's just say Arthur Smith. He's the coach of. He's the offensive coordinator for the Steelers right now. So that understanding, let's just say they were going in to play the Falcons this week. They got the same stuff going on down there. He'd have every known quantity that you could have on how to stop that team. So what am I saying? That the coaches on the teams, the messed up thing about this is a beautiful messed up thing that the coaches, it's like a fraternity. These guys just get passed around from team to team. Coordinators just get passed around from team to team. So the knowledge tape, I've seen so many times where a quarterback was pretty much neutralized because he played against his former offensive coordinator who's on the other team. You get where I'm going, kids.
Yeah.
The coaches and the coordinators and where they are make a big difference on those matchups too.
Absolutely. Like we were just talking about the Vegas Raiders, and a lot of that has to do with Luke Getsy. And you can kind of look at what's happening over there by way of offense, especially given what we've seen by way of Luke Getsy, and expect things aren't going to be super duper awesome. And so far, it's proving to be just about that. So I'm right there with you, and that also proves positive with guys like Eric Washington coming to the Chicago Bears after a great tenure in Buffalo, and seeing him continue that tenure here with a guy like Daryl Taylor going crazy out of nowhere last week, right? So during week 1, so lots of stuff like that. That's actually a very important way to evaluate teams as you move forward.
Are we going to look at this week's matchups?
Yeah, I was just throwing a couple of them out there. Steelers versus Denver Broncos as well. I know Steelers won last week. During week 1, I have a strange feeling they're gonna beat up on Denver, just because they can. I don't see good things happening over in Colorado by way of football. I'm just saying. Any thoughts there, Mr. Brian?
You don't think Bo Nix is the mile high savior?
I think he could be. I'm not sure that he is today. Or in week 2, 2024. I'm not so sure. Things that I am sure of, I do like the running game under normal pretenses. I like their defense. The defense is stout, but yeah, you know what? I think they're going to give. Let me bring this back. I think they might give Justin Fields and them boys a little bit of trouble on offense to that defense. So I think a low-scoring game on both sides. Broncos defense might even be a viable scoop up this week too. Believe that. George Pickens is a monster this week too. I forgot about George Pickens. George Pickens was a monster in wide receiver 1 capacity this week. But the question remains: can either one of those quarterbacks get the ball out to him on a regular basis? We'll have to find out week 2. Let me see what other matchups are there week 2. Let's see. So that was just a few of them. I wanted to touch on those guys more specifically for the defensive prowess. I think those are solid defenses that you can sort of look at. Other games we're looking at here this coming week. Thursday, we've got Miami versus Buffalo. Divisional game. I think
I would start either of those defenses.
And it's at Miami.
Both of those defenses are really good under normal pretenses, but I feel like this is going to be an offense. You know what? Let me rephrase. I feel like Miami Dolphins are going to make their impression felt on the Buffalo Bills this week. Let's put that out there. I think they're going to make their impression felt both offensively and defensively. I think the Buffalo Bills Super Bowl window has closed. That's my 2 cents.
I can tell you this: Buffalo's secondary can be had, but against these dudes, yeah. I wouldn't. I'm telling you, they can move that ball around. They get up and down the field with pretty much ease. I'm definitely starting Tua this week.
Yeah, you should be. You should be. And I do expect Josh Allen to get decent numbers. I'll put that out there. But I don't think these guys will be able to keep up with the offensive firepower of Miami.
It's going to be a shootout, man.
Yeah, well, to a certain degree, but I think Miami's got the defense to manage these guys too. So I don't see Buffalo winning this particular contest. We'll run it down the line back over to Sunday. Green Bay Packers versus the Atlanta Falcons. No love.
Wait a minute, you're looking at the wrong schedule.
Am I?
The Colts play Green Bay.
Colts are playing Green Bay. Are you sure?
At Green Bay. That's what it's showing on my schedule.
Let me. You want to pull it up and share, Brian? Can you do that?
Yeah, I guess I could.
Pull this down.
Do you see it? Now, this is off Yahoo.
Dues now. Thank you very much. And thank you, Yahoo Sports. We appreciate that. So week 2, we're looking at, again, Buffalo Miami is who we started out with. Secondarily, we've got Tampa Bay versus the Detroit Lions. Oh, boy. That one's going to be a shootout. That game's going to be, yeah.
At Detroit.
Don Burr. I actually want to watch this particular football game. Unless the Bears are playing at the exact same time, I actually do want to watch this football game.
No, Bears game is the Sunday night.
Okay, perfect. So imagine that. This will be a very fun football game to watch. Baker Mayfield's going to have a great game. And I think the Detroit Lions are probably still going to take this football game. This will be a good football game to watch, y'all. That'll be fun.
I'll give you guys another good sleeper pick. I don't know if you guys are thinking about it, but this is a perfect, easy money right here. Layup pick. Grab the Indianapolis Colts defense against Malik. What's his name? The backup quarterback in Green
Against Malik Willis.
Yeah.
Well
Grab the Colts defense, man.
Yeah, that is a fantastic defense stream this week. Indianapolis Colts over Green Bay Packers. That's also my pick for the week. If that's what we're looking at. Rough sledding for the Green Bay Packers, unfortunately, without Jordan Love. That's it's about that simple. But who knows?
That story brings a tear to a glass eye. Poor Green Bay.
I bet you got two glass eyes because ain't no crying happening over there. That's for sure.
Brian, scroll your screen up a little bit. Let's see some more games there.
All right, as he's doing that, New Orleans versus Dallas Cowboys. Dallas going, well, you know what? I'm gonna give that one to Dallas across the board, but I'm interested to see what kind of football team this New Orleans Saints football team really is in 2024. They pulled out a great win this past week. Next up, we got New York Jets versus Tennessee Titans. Geez, man.
Ugly game.
Yeah, bro. I think this is an ugly game. I think the Jets win. I think this game looks exactly like the Bears game versus Tennessee. Almost identical. I think Aaron Rodgers struggles. I think Tennessee gets to him quite a bit. I think that the Jets defense wins this football game with little sprinklings of Alan Lazard and Garrett Wilson here and there.
Here's another one where I wouldn't, if you got a defense, if you don't land the Colts, I think the Jets defense might not be a bad idea against what's his name there, the quarterback at Tennessee,
Will Levis. Absolutely.
It's not a bad idea, man. Maybe if you don't have the Jets defense already, or if he's out there, might want to scoop that. Yeah,
Jets defense is one of them top defenses that gets scooped up every season, at least over the past few years. Super solid defense over there. In this particular situation, I don't see much good happening for Will Levis, unfortunately. Sauce Gardner and all that. Yeah, man, I just don't. I don't see good things happening for Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans. Next up, San Francisco versus the Minnesota Vikings. Remember how I said that this? Anyways, San Francisco over Minnesota without a question, without a shadow of a doubt. Even without Christian McCaffrey, they will just utilize Deebo Samuel as a running back. They'll utilize Jordan Mason. Brandon Ayuk had a really decent game last year, even with a really lackluster Brock Purdy showing. Brock Purdy's also on my bench on my other fantasy team, and he threw up about 10 points too. So I'm having a rough go at the quarterback position this season. So
if you got the 49ers defense, you better start them this week because they're going to maul the holy shit out of Minnesota this week.
Well, again, San Francisco 49ers defense, probably the number one, if not number two, if you're looking at Baltimore Ravens, available in fantasy football. Definitely out there, definitely rostered, definitely starting them. And, under normal pretenses, I would be touting the Minnesota Vikings defense as I did earlier today. Not this week, though. Not week 2. Next up, we got the Seattle Seahawks versus the New England Patriots. New England's defense is really, really stout. I'm not so sure they're going to have a stout game again this week. It's going to be smash mouth football for New England all day long. I'm just not so sure that smash mouth will match up with the high-powered offense that they have over in Seattle. Seattle's got a dangerous defense too, guys. Don't get it twisted. So if we're talking matchup for matchup, I'm going to go Seattle Seahawks. I would probably also stream their defense in this scenario too. Moving over to New York Giants versus Washington Commanders in a divisional rivalry game.
Probably the ugliest game on the schedule. Don't watch it. Just look at the stat box.
That if you want to spend time with your family, that would be the game to miss.
I thought you were going to say sit down and watch this football game with your family, but no. He's saying don't watch it at all.
Whether it's having a
Take
kid
your family and leave. That's pretty funny. Facts of the matter is, I see this a little bit differently. It's going to be ugly as all sin. Yeah, he's going to be ugly. But I think this is the game where things start to click in a little bit for a certain Mr. Daniels. So pay attention if you actually have a, if you have some of them Washington wide receivers on your team, by all means. If you happen to have either one of these defenses,
You're
why?
SOL.
Why do you have these defenses?
There's no reason to sugarcoat it.
I'm sorry. Geez. Moving on down the line here, we got the Los Angeles Chargers versus Carolina Panthers. Chargers all day long in this particular situation.
Just start every goddamn LA Chargers you can get, start them.
Yeah,
they just
defense. They
just lost Derrick Brown too. Their main D tackles. They lost him, I think.
Well, like I say, start the defense, start the offense, start the quarterback. You name it.
Long snapper.
Long snapper. Start them all because things are still a little bit shaky in Carolina. It's going to take them a little bit to get up to snuff, but I do expect it to start to click in for Bryce Young at some point this year, because again, I think he's got some really decent weapons surrounding him, and it's just a question of him, learning how to utilize those weapons, and connect with them. Next up, we've got the Cleveland Browns versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's like I kind of trashed Cleveland all day during this inaugural episode, so why stop now? I won't really dig a ditch here, but I just don't see good things happening in Cleveland. I think they sealed their fate and tied it to a guy who's going to flush it right down the toilet. And that's enough about that. I think the arrow is pointing straight up for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is a decent quarterback. He's got all the tools, really just needed the weapons. I think he's got the weapons too, so look out. I think it's going to be a long week. If you have the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, this is a pretty decent. Wait a minute. The Cleveland Browns defense is super good too. So even though I have been trashing Cleveland, like the Browns defense might be an interesting stream this week. Just might be. I don't think they can get anything done on offense. I'll be factual about that. But the Browns defense might be a problem for Trevor Lawrence and the gang.
I wouldn't discount the Browns so quickly, man. Dallas has a devastating defense, and they can make almost any team look half-ass good. You know what I mean? But the truth is, the Browns do have problems moving the ball. They did have problems moving the ball. Quarterback isn't in sync with what they're trying to do. But again, man, they're too talented. I wouldn't sleep on them. I'll just say that.
Well, like I said, if you have Browns defense, not a crazy start this week. That's my 2 cents on the Browns versus Jacksonville.
Is this back-to-back road games for Cleveland?
Yeah, no idea.
Well, I mean, this game's in Jacksonville. Sunday's game's in Jacksonville. I don't know if the Dallas game was in Dallas or not, but that's 2 games on the road right off the bat. Gee whiz.
Oh, shout out to Nod. You got your first super chat, kids.
What? In honor of Shane Waldron's offensive point production on Sunday, $11. I appreciate it, the notch. That's awesome.
Shout out, Nod. You rascal, you.
That's funny. Appreciate it, brother. That's why you got the wrench. Man with the wrench. Super no maniac notch. Super flexer. That's my guy. So what else we got? We got Vegas Raiders versus the Baltimore Ravens. I touched on that one a little bit earlier on.
Pissed off Roquan Smith, they're in trouble.
Yeah. Say again?
Pissed off Roquan Smith, the Raiders are in trouble.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to go down. About that simple. Your thoughts, Brian?
No. The Raiders are coming to Baltimore. They ain't got a chance in hell. That's Ravens.
Word up. All right. Rams in Arizona Cardinals. I believe I also touched on this one just a little bit. I think this is a tough one to call.
Oh, you talking about the Rams in Arizona?
Yeah, this one's a tough one to call.
Rams will put it on.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I'm with both of you in that respect, but I also feel that at some point these Cardinals are going to start to put things together too. It wasn't last week. Last week was a bit of a lackluster showing from the Arizona Cardinals. Very little conversation by way of Marvin Harrison Jr. this past week. Not very much to talk about. I don't expect that to continue on for very long. Their wide receiver core is a real deal. Their running backs are the real deal. Rashad White's not a joke, y'all. Neither is Trey Benson behind him. So there's all that. Keep your eyes peeled there. I think that the Los Angeles Rams take care of business mainly rooted on defense in this particular game. But I think this will be a good high offense game, and we're going to see more or less the return of Kyler Murray to form, and we'll see a little bit more from Marvin Harrison Jr. this week. Next up, we got Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Denver Broncos. I think I did touch on this one very briefly. I did. I'm going to skip this one. Next up, we've got Cincinnati versus Kansas City Chiefs. Holy
smoke. If Jamar Chase inked up, this will be the game of the week.
Man. I don't think it will be. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs beat up on the Cincinnati Bengals this week. I don't think the Bengals are up to form. That's just my 2 cents. And I've got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase as a handcuff.
Always remember, kids, when I don't just remember this. It's like no matter how bad the Jets were, whenever they saw the New England, it's something about those interdivisional matchups, those conference matchups, and these rivalry games. That's turned into a rivalry game, a real rivalry game, and they're going to go at each other, man. There's some piss and vinegar involved in this one, because that thing is that pendulum has swung so back and forth in their series, man. So I don't care. I know they're all going to get up for this game, so I know the Bengals didn't look good, but I'm telling you, they will be ready for Kansas City.
So go ahead, Brian. Sorry, brother.
I was just Nomad brought up a great point, but the thing is, they're playing at Kansas City, and that is such a noisy place.
It is hell. It's a hellhole when it comes to that.
I just don't think Cincinnati's ready for this particular matchup this season. That's my 2 cents. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are still in championship form and continuing to build. I don't feel the same way about these Cincinnati Bengals right now. Not to say that I don't think that they will fight for championship as they move forward this season. I think they're a dangerous contender. They are.
And by the way, if you have any of these two defenses, bench both of the motherfuckers because it's gonna be a lot of scoring.
Yeah, that's a great idea, right? These two defenses will not like Kansas. I feel like Kansas City is the one to choose out of the two, but If you can avoid them,
Yeah.
go elsewhere. All right, so we're going to go down to Atlanta Falcons versus Philadelphia Eagles first. Man, the Eagles didn't look great this week as a team overall. Mind you, how great do you really need to look if you can successfully run the football with Saquon Barkley? So there's that factor. Right, so they're going to continue to lean on Saquon. Saquon going to run that ball, and as long as he's healthy, things are positive for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I wish I could say all the exact same things about the Atlanta Falcons. I really should. I should be saying, as long as Bijan Robinson's healthy and they run the rock, they should win this football game.
Quick question, kids. Where is this game?
Philly.
It's in Philly.
Philadelphia.
They're gonna make Atlanta look kind of pedestrian.
Well, I think Atlanta is a little bit pedestrian right now. Very similar things. I just don't think they're ready to be up against a NFC Championship contending team yet. At the same time, I think that the caliber of talent on the Atlanta Falcons roster could be NFC Championship challenging caliber.
Not against this team, man. They got too many pass rushers, and Kirk Cousins is by far a statue. That's what he is, right? He's a sitting duck back there.
You said it. I wish I could say it again, but
And also something else. Since Philly played Friday, they got a couple days rest, extra rest than Atlanta.
Oh wow!
I think they're gonna tee off on old Kirk, man.
Oh yeah, it's probably going to be a bit of a problem. So, like I wish I could say, things I wish I could say that I expect to see a lot of running the rock with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. That's really what I'd like to say. If that's what they do, the question is, how long can Philly's defense manage that? I don't know. There's a world where Atlanta Falcons win this football game. I just don't think it's the one that we live in.
Sure ain't.
I don't think this.
You're somewhere out there with Will Robinson shit on that planet. That's where they win that game.
I'm just saying there is one, but it's not this one. Right?
Hell no.
Anyway,
ass kick, man.
Yeah, I see Philadelphia all day on this one. And last but not least, not in my heart, we've got the Chicago Bears versus the Houston Texans, Week 2 football 2024. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, Bears fans, but I'm as I did in my prediction for the season, I'm calling the Houston Texans with a W here in this particular foray. It's just simply too early. For all the same reasons that I gave it, that I said about the Atlanta Falcons, that I said about the Cincinnati Bengals. These particular Chicago Bears are just not quite ready to contend against a playoff caliber team yet. That's where I'm at. I think the defense is. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this is going to be some sort of an offensive blowout. I don't think it will be, guys. But at the same time, Houston Texans defense is really good too.
So little side note, Kedz the Canucks comments represents Kedz the Canuck. They do not represent
the Nomad Network or affiliates.
You own your own, buddy. I think they can get them. I'm fresh off the Texans tape, so I got some things to say about that, but I'll wait till you get done.
How much water you got in your glass?
We got plenty. Got plenty. Tell me.
Oh man! All right.
Styles make fights, kid. You gotta look at it this way. It's basically they'll see their own image in their reflection because they're the same team. They just got different uniforms on. They will be able to execute, and I believe this is when you'll see our run game kind of catch its little steam, because I think the Texans could be had in the run game. Their interior ain't what I thought it was going to be when I looked at it on tape. You can get a hold of them, man. So I'm just going to say I'm not. Man, I wouldn't count the Bears out in this one. I really wouldn't. I think the Texans, I'm not going to say they're overrated, but I can see the flaws. If I can see the flaws, I know the coaches can, and they'll exploit them.
Wow. Every team has flaws. I think the flaws on this Texans team is more on the defense than it is on the offense, and their defense is nasty. Like, it just is. It's a nasty defense. D'Amico Ryan's running things over there. He's doing the right stuff. The offense we saw from Chicago this past week, if it's any representation of what it's going to look like in week 2, it ain't going to cut it. I don't know what to say. So unless we see what we were hoping to see in week 1, then I don't expect this to be a contest that the Bears can pull out. Mind you, I think Bears defense is still streamable this week. Like, I think you can play Bears defense this week. I don't expect this to be. I expect this to look something like 17 to 13, 17 to 9, 21 to 9.
I'm going to go a little bit different route than both of you guys. And my thing is psychological. I think with Chicago coming down from 17 points behind and winning that game, that gives them a confidence that they didn't have. And you think all of last year, Chicago was known for blowing fourth quarter leads, not coming back from and winning in the fourth quarter. Now they got that. So that gives them an edge there, where Houston, they kind of had where they came to Indy thinking, okay, we got this one in the back, and they just won by 2 points. So they may be second guessing themselves.
AC Adams says Houston can be had. This is interesting, guys.
I can tell you're not lying.
I don't know, guys. We're going to chop this up. We're going to chop it up on this particular topic a couple of more times, I'm pretty sure, but between now and game time on Sunday. But that Houston Texans wide receiver core rivals ours. Like, it's one of the few in the league that truly actually does. Might be better than ours, maybe. Might be. And I think they're going to actually give our secondary fits. Like, it's one of the few teams that I'm going to sit down and say our secondary doesn't eat lunch this week, but this might be one of them.
I would say this, and Brian almost got where I'm going. He got probably about 90% there. It's the energy and the confidence. They came out of the preseason with all the energy and confidence in the world, and they came out flat in the first half offensively. Defense played pretty good for a quarter. In that second quarter, they had some letdowns. I'm talking about the totality of the game. Mm-hmm. The offense was trying to find something during that game. It was like, if you look at it close enough, the Bears, they were insistent on doing a lot of play action, boot rollouts, that kind of thing. And to be honest with you, they had an answer for that. They had a pretty good answer for it, and Caleb didn't look very comfortable in it. But the minute and the second in that second half that they realized that they were going to have to relinquish that game plan and get Caleb in sets that made him feel more comfortable, and that's when he had 4 or 5 wide outs, empty sets, and he was in shotgun just darting the ball around. That's when they started to flow. And that's when you start to see what Caleb can bring to the table. Now, to me, like we've always said on this show, kids, I know this is your fantasy show, but if they just try not to fit that square peg in the round hole and just work with what they have, let him go out there and spray the ball around if that's what makes him comfortable. Mm-hmm. They're going to have a problem with him. They're going to have a serious problem with him, and I think they can be had. I don't think the secondary is that good. I think Stingley is great, but I think that's some of these other guys out there. I don't think they're the best I think they can do better than a couple of pieces they have out there.
So I'm gonna ask you a bigger question about this particular game, and it's with respect to the run game. Our run game was pretty suspect last week. Do you think they can actually, do some damage against the Houston Texans in week 2?
Yes, I think the
Yeah.
interior of the Texans D line can be had. Yes, I've seen it against Indianapolis. They're not that good up in the middle. I mean, coming off the edge, the edge rushers are awesome, But in those interior guys, them least missing. I think Malik. I forget what Malik's last name. I think he ended up with San Francisco in a trade, or he got in a free agency sign, or whatever it was. But he was huge for them. And so that piece not being there, I see a weakness right there in the interior of the defense. I think they can definitely gash him a few times.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, Chicago should be able to run in between the tackles. You don't have the two walls, Simmons and that Sweat from Texas. I mean, hell, that's 800 pounds of humanity, damn near.
That's the good news this week, actually, right? So they're strong on the edges, which is good for them, and it's something that we wish that we were, and we actually really exhibited this past week. They're strong on the edges. I don't expect to see stuff like Coleman Shelton lost on an island again this week. I think he might be a little bit more solid, and if that's the case, a little bit more time for Caleb to be comfortable in the pocket when stuff isn't, screaming directly, up the center of the field, right past center coming at him. So we'll see what happens this weekend. But again, I marked this one as an L. If they're able to pull this W out, Bears fans, it's a long season, but we're heading in the right direction.
All I know is they pull that game off. I think we're gonna. You like the energy in Chicago right now? It's gonna be on steroids, man. If they beat the Texans, it's gonna go on steroids.
If you look at if they win Sunday night, the Bears, with the Rams, wide receiver hurting, they could go the first 10 weeks, with maybe one, possibly 2 loss. I mean, the first 10, because week 11's when they first game against the Packers, right? Or division.
Well, we still have a game against the Rams that I'm a little bit worried about. Those are the 2 losses that I have for the Chicago Bears in the first 10 games. It's basically the Rams and this game against the Houston Texans, which again leaves them with 8 wins rolling into the bye, right? So I'm happy with that. I think that's a great trajectory if they're able to accomplish something very similar to that. Accomplishing better is them winning this weekend, and more power to them if they can pull it out. I'm bearing the hell down.
Actually, the bye is the 7th week. Sorry to interrupt. And then also something else that I've been wrong about, and I want to correct myself now. The trade deadline is in between the 9th and 10th week, November 5th or 9th or something like that.
It's no longer the 7th week?
Yeah, I thought it was, but I just the other day I just want to make sure, and I'm looking at it, and no, it's in between the 9th and 10th week this year.
Okay. That's weird, but I will.
Well, I apologize for being wrong, saying the wrong thing, but to correct myself now, yeah.
Well, I've always thought that it was the 7th, so thank you for that. We'll keep an eye on that situation because again, depending on the trajectory of this season, you can expect for some major moves in and around there, especially from certain Mr. Poles. We all know what he likes to do with those number 2 picks. Anyhow,
and that's still if the trade line being on the 5th and all like that, that still puts the game right before Green Bay. I mean, if Poles wants to make a trade,
that's
not saying he will or won't. I'm just saying.
Who knows? Like we say, he likes to wheel and deal those number 2s, right? Likes to wheel and deal. Tuesday, November 5th. Brian is correct. Oh, look at that. Looky there.
It was bound to happen.
Well, it makes sense with them adding the extra week and all that. Like, push things out a little bit more closer to the playoffs. So if you have to make a decision, you have a couple of additional weeks to do so. It makes a little bit more sense. But anyways, I'm with it. I think that's just about the totality of week 1 and a little bit of a glimpse into week 2 for your fantasy football. Basically, a couple of guys you can look at the stream: Isaiah Likely, Zach Charbonnet, Wan'Dale Robinson, Tyler Algier, potentially Kenneth Gainwell, just in case down the road, as well as some of these defensive streams that we were talking about. Definitely look at that Baltimore Ravens situation, because I'm sure it will be an eat lunch situation for the Baltimore Ravens. Thanks a million to all you guys for coming through and spending time with us. I super appreciate it. Give a little bit of love and shout outs to the guys who did. Shout out to everybody within the SuperFlex show. Within the SuperFlex League. My guy, King Booker World, the Naj. Cliff Victoria's not in the league, but big shout outs to you, Cliff. Thanks for coming through and representing with us. James Hunter, thank you, sir. And I did get your message there. We will I'll have to chop it up with Nomad, and I believe your donation would be perfect. I think that'll work out too. So we'll figure out what to do with that. In the grass, thanks for coming through. Smitty Q was late. Damn it, Smitty Q. Super No Maniac, Smitty Q, super flexer. AC Adams out there with us too. We also got, who else was hanging with us today? There was a couple more folks. Aunt Moss. Aunt Moss was with us today. Super flexer Aunt Moss. Man, and big Plank was with us for a little bit today. Big shout outs to the Naj again for the super chat. Thank you, Naj. First super chat for the show. Really appreciate that. That's straight from my heart back to you. And again, Ron Winarski, a little bit of love to you and the Scottish Bear. Hey man, thanks again for joining us today. I really enjoyed chopping it up with my guys here. Next week, very likely, we may be flexing to Thursday as opposed to Tuesday. Keep your notifications on. Like, share, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you could do all 3 of those things. We'll be paying attention to the numbers as they move up. And guys, keep it flexing.